Thank you so much for being here. Good afternoon. I am a government researcher here at the Laboratory for Analytic Sciences, and we are excited to jump into our final thread, kind of pulling all this together for the day. It is often referred to as OAI-ML. It's a mouthful, but it's Operationalizing Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. And not to discredit machine learning, but because AI is the rage, I'm probably just going to refer to it as AI from now on. So, but think in your head, AI, ML. Okay, so when probably the most interesting word we have in this title, and the one that I want to kind of focus on, is the word operationalizing. And when we think of that word, I want you to think, what makes AI useful? And again, the tech, ChatGPT, it's cool. It is very cool and it's fun. I want to play with it. It does some cool stuff. But when you're thinking about making it useful, that is the coolest, right? Not just the tech, but making it useful in the hands of someone to accomplish something of value, of purpose. That's the coolest. So, introducing this thread, I want you to think about kind of three key ingredients that are going to help us wrap our head around this making AI useful. So these three ingredients we're going to talk about are the people, the practice, and the use case. Thinking about the who, the how, and the why. So let's start with the who, the people. We want to consider who's going to use it, how they're going to interact with it, how they're going to use it, what are kind of the human interaction points that we're going to have within this AI. The how, the practice, think the prototyping, engineering, the workflows, how they're going to be embedded in systems. How are we going to bring this AI to bear? Not just building from new every time, but how does it work within existing practices, applications, workflows? And then how do we manage and maintain this AI within our architectures, within our systems? And finally, the why. This use case. Why do we even need this model to begin with? What is the purpose? What outcome do we aim to be achieved through this model? And how do we and then what does success mean through it? How do we measure that? And how do we really understand and make that usefulness and understand how it comes to bear for our workforce? So each of these three ingredients is really important by themselves, naturally. But what makes them really interesting is how they come together. And the key components as they come together within the system, making this AI useful, not just as a model itself, but across the board, understanding how this model comes to bear within the who, the how, and the why. And so as we're mixing these three ingredients for success, it has a lot of parallels with where we started the day at this morning, thinking about the pillars on which we build LAS on, thinking about not only the people that are here, the government, the NCSU side of things, the performers from academia and industry, our partners across our partner government agencies, but also within the expertise and experiences they all come to bear, whether it's their background is on the engineering side, or maybe on the research, data science side, or on the knowledge worker side. So bringing all of them together, both in the practice as well as their experience together as this team, all of these ingredients together, mixing together to achieve our usefulness for AI. And so the kind of the fun part as we do this, especially as we're doing it here at LAS, is within this mixing, as we get this going, we are identifying, and the natural process of this prototyping, is we get to identify the tension points that naturally come about through this operationalizing process. And we want to build that, not just identify what it is, but build that as part of the research and part of the work that we're doing. So we think about the cost, and we think about aspects of, well, data labeling can be really expensive. How can we use synthetic data instead to draw down that cost and still maintain a useful AI application? We care about scalability, not just like scaling up to 1 billion users because the tech is awesome, but we also think about scaling down. How do I think about this in resource-constrained environments? How do I think about it when I don't have a GPU farm at my disposal. I'm in a very constrained environment. And we think about the efficiency, the reliability of these models, because it's not just a model by itself. It's thinking about how we integrate these things into existing systems, into an established user workflow. And so through this research, again, we're not always aiming to build new. It's cool to build new, don't get me wrong, because it's this flashy thing. But we have to consider the current applications, consider what currently exists, how do we extend what's there, and then through that process, guess what? We identify more key tension points that might come. And the cool thing is, and it's really fun about this, because again, remember, it's the coolest. We bring together the different components, especially from a government perspective, the research component, the engineering component, the knowledge worker component, and they start mixing together in a way to overcome these tension points and not just identify them. And so finally, to kind of wrap this all up, we definitely, here at LAS, we are not thinking about operationalizing AI ML as a one and done scenario. It is not finished with a deployment. Now, deployments are awesome. We get our kudos. Someone gives us a cookie. Everything's good. But we realize that with that deployment comes feedback. And with that feedback comes iteration and refinement. And so we're constantly trying to improve on what we're doing. And so, okay, spoiler, you've kind of seen this all day already. We've seen this in human triage, in human machine, in the content triage in the beginning, in the human machine teaming already. And we're going to see it continued in action with our projects that we're going to talk about in just a second. So if you guys want to line up real quick, that'll be great. It's a good segue here. But again, as we listen to these projects, think a little bit about these three key ingredients. Think about how we think about the people, how we're thinking about and the who, the practices and the how, and then finally the use cases that we have and the why that makes this tech not just cool, but when we use it, it becomes the coolest. Thank you.